trait that people tell me is that I really try to over-prepare and try to be on top of it, but that could lead to me going crazy. So I think that you also have to kind of trust your gut and also go with that too. No sé si eso, if that makes sense.
And what about your biggest achievement? What's the project you have felt most proud of in your career?
Being on the artistic spot.
Oh, that's a good answer.
Is that a good answer? Where's the applause? There should be an applause for that answer. My biggest accomplishment? Oh, I don't know. I guess making my family proud of what I do and how I do it. Having a community that backs me up. Being Latino, being gay, being, in today's world, having a community that's behind you, a community that doesn't care who you are, what you do, a community that just cares about, who you are and what you do, not who you are and what you do.
That's true.
And I think that's very important. I think that's been my biggest accomplishment.
How you balance that personal and professional life at the same time, being the fact that you're very active and if you follow George on social media, which is
Jorge Estevez, WFTV. It's actually George spelled Jorge Estevez, WFTV. J Estevez, WFTV is my handle everywhere. Twitter,
so you can
Instagram.
See his life, because he posts there not only his professional life, but also everything you do and you love doing outside of your working station, right?
I do, and I don't know why I started doing that, and I did, and people were like, that's cool, that's nice, and everything, whether it's my dog, my crazy golden girls, which are La Vieja que yo cuido down in Miami, and I take them to the mall in a wheelchair, and I, go out to dinner, and they cook for me, or whether it's my husband, who is so bashful and shy that we rarely take pictures together, that we post anyway, whether it's my one-eyed dog. My dog only has one eye, because we had to scoop his eye out 2 years ago, because of an ulcer. Or whether it's me, feet up on the balcony, just chilling, enjoying the day with a message. I don't know. I'm in pretty much an open book, I think.
How do you make others resonate with you as a person?
Oh, I have no idea. I try to be normal. I try to. I mean, as far as social media allows you, if you let it, it allows you to be normal. It allows you to be who you are. You can put up fronts, and you can always click the selfie when you're all well rested and have some under eye concealer, so you look really good and you're not shiny and your hair's done.
Or use the filters.
Right. Or you can get up after a workout and post a picture like, I didn't want to do this today, but I did it. Hopefully you can find something that you didn't want to do that you could do today. So it's kind of weird like that. So I don't know how that connection works, but I got to tell you, I've gotten very few negative comments about things that I post. Granted, I'm not posting anything obscene or posting anything politically or posting anything that really, I have my own opinions. Outside of Jorge Estevez, the news reporter guy, I have my own. We all have opinions. Sure. And I think we need to recognize our opinions so we can maintain our objectivity. And hopefully that will allow people to kind of appreciate me for what I do.
You mentioned something really interesting about the Pulse massacre a few years ago. And you said working with Vanessa on the project, talking about what happened. How did that resonate with you, being the fact that you live here in Florida, that you've been here for such a long time, that your career has been very successful here, and being gay? How did that affect George as a person and as an active member of the gay community?
How much time do you have? Because of the explanation.
As much time as you have.
I will try to make it as succinct as possible. And obviously we're making light of the situation, but the reality is that Pulse was a club in the middle of downtown Orlando, kind of actually a little south of downtown. It was a gay club. It was opened, 12, 13 years ago. I forget the actual number. And it was a great place for people to go. Gay, straight, didn't matter. It was like Miami Beachy, and it was cool, and it was different than we've ever had. That was the first gay club I ever went to.
Wow.
Like as a human being, like as a person. When it opened, I remember when it opened, it was huge. Getting in was like, I called in all my favors. I'm like, I'm the guy from the news, let me in. And, I skipped the line and did all this crazy stuff. And then you get in, it's great, it's wonderful, and it's community, and it's people, and it's, whether you believe in the lifestyle or agree with it or not, that's not the point. The point is it was a place where people who were part of the lifestyle, believed in the lifestyle, or accepted it, or tolerated it, or whatever, went to have a good time, went to be together. That's what it was all about. Doesn't matter if you were gay or not. So anyway, and then when that happened, it was frightening because I couldn't believe it. I could have had friends there. I could have, granted, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. I wasn't going to be there because I'm an old man. But there were people who were there and who were there for others and supporting others. And it was just for those families I can't even imagine. So for me to even say that it affected me, it seems so inconsequential. But for everyone, it affected them. And for us having to go on the air and report it. I was live on the air when the first 4 names of the victims came through. And I had a friend of mine who knew one of the victims. And he called me and said, I know one of the first 4 names. Mm-hmm. So I called him and we were on air talking for like 20 minutes about his friend. And like, that's crazy. And at that moment, I almost, I never hid the fact that I'm gay. I was on air and I was like, it's our community and I can understand because I went to that club and that was my first. So all of a sudden I found myself talking about it on air and injecting some of Jorge Estevez into this report and this presentation because it was who I was. It gave me perspective and it gave people at home some perspective of what I was talking about. So it affected our entire community and it brought us closer together. And I think that's what we've learned as a community. Gay, straight, ally, it brought us together because at the end of the day, we're all human beings who all live in Florida in this little town that's growing and growing and growing with more diversity, and we should all appreciate each other for what we bring to the table. We may not always agree.
That's true.
But appreciate it. So
you're absolutely right. So now, George, talking about being part of that community, you talked about your husband. Can you talk to us a little bit about their personal side, that you're married, and the people that follow you know that who your significant other is?
Yes.
So can you talk to us a little bit about that wedding that you had?
It's an interesting story because we were on the beach and my husband, my I guess then partner, proposed, and he's not a very, he's like publicly not mushy or nothing like that. He's just very close to the vest. So he proposed, and I was like, oh wow, okay, let's do this, And so we did it, and we're like, oh, he's like, I don't want anyone. I'm not going to stand in front of 50 people or 500 people and say I do. That's not going to happen. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? He's like, no, not going to happen. We'll go to the courthouse, we'll get married, it'll be fine. I was like, oh, okay. So then that's fine. So what we did instead is I had a 40th birthday party, and I invited 350 of my closest friends. And we ended up having
350.
We ended up having a very large 40th birthday party at Quantum Leap Winery in the Mills district, and we had a great time. And he basically said, enjoy it, this is your wedding. So we had a band, we had a plena band, we had DJ, we had the whole thing, and then we got married. Here's the problem, though. We were going to get married on the beach, and then Pulse happened. So we postponed it, and we postponed it again. And like one thing led to another, and then we're like, you know what? Let's just go. The mayor, Teresa Jacobs at the time, Orange County Mayor Teresa Jacobs, had her own journey with accepting gay marriage in her head. And she was like, I'm okay with it now. Because Pulse made her okay with it. Pulse made so many people okay with so many things.
Yeah. Acceptance.
Yes. And then she's like, and I said, would you marry us? So long story short, she ended up speaking, and not officiating, but she ended up kind of speaking at the wedding. And I had 7 people at my wedding. Teresa Jacobs' son lent us like the clubhouse overlooking Lake Eola because my husband and I wanted to move it to Lake Eola because that's where the first gathering, the first week after Pulse, where 50,000 people gathered around the lake, and I was hosting it with Nancy Alvarez. How we just pulled that together, I have no idea.
You did.
So many people did. Yes,
part of the audience.
Yes, so that was chilling and amazing when those candles were lit after dark, and so we said, let's do it at Lake Eola. So we did it at like a club balcony overlooking Lake Eola. So we had the mayor. Her husband was a witness, I think, or he was there too. We had her, like, another person from her office who, like, brought the champagne, brought the cake cutter. We had a photographer and his wife. His wife was a witness. And we had my friend who does all the director of operations here, like, everything with a plug he's in charge of. He recorded it. And he was the auditor? No, auditor. The
notary.
The notary.
Yep.
So everyone had 3 jobs. And, the photographer's kids were the violinists who played the march.
Wow.
So we had seven people at the wedding.
Everything was perfect.
Everything was perfect. It was fantastic. We got married. And you know what? At the end of the day, I'm glad it's how it happened. There's a video. I haven't even showed it to anyone yet. And we did it with 7 people. We got married because it doesn't matter. We used we have the same rings.
Wow.
this is a great story. So we're in Key West, our first weekend away 11 years ago. And we got these rings at a kiosk on Key West, Duval Street. 2 for $25.
Wow.
Okay?
And those are the rings you're wearing now.
And then he bought the rings. He's like, oh, you like this ring? I'm like, yeah, it's a great ring. He's like, oh, yeah, pick one. He's like, showed me 3 of them from the vendor. And I'm like, I don't know, you pick one. That's for you. He's like, no, you pick it. I'm like, fine. So I picked the ring. And Enrique goes, we'll take 2. I'm standing there. And I'm like, he's like, here you go. I'm like, I'm a size 9 or whatever it was. And I bought the ring. And he bought the ring 2 for $25. And we're walking down Duval Street. And I'm like, what just happened? Like, is this 1950? Is this a promise ring? Like, what is this? So then we were going to get married. I'm like, oh, we got to go pick out rings. He's like, no. We have rings. I'm like, they're 2 for $25 rings? And he goes, yeah, those are the rings. I'm like, okay. So I have a $12.50 ring that I will have for the rest of my life on my finger.
That's good.
It's the same ring. Isn't that funny?
It is.
It's emotional.
Actually, it's funny, but it's nice, and it's a nice story. Because it's not how much it is, it's what it means to you.
Right, no, absolutely. And it hasn't turned my finger green in 12 years.
Exactly.
So it's perfect. I've had the same ring on.
So it worked perfectly fine.
It did.
So now, George, since we're getting closer to the end of our show today, because you need to go back to a live
is it over?
broadcast at 6 p.m. Not yet.
Oh, because I have time.
Okay, so we still have
Let's
time.
talk about you.
About me.
Let's talk about you.
This interview is about you.
By the way, this is very uncomfortable.
Why?
To be interviewed.
Is it?
It is.
What's the difference between being interviewed and interviewing someone?
Well, because you have to, I want to answer the questions honestly, obviously, but you can't, I don't want to talk too much about myself, but I kind of have to, and it's just weird. Like, I have so many questions for you, like, how'd you start this, or your passion behind this, or,
But I have an idea, then you can interview me, and then we can make this happen on TV, and then I can talk about
See?
Artistic Spot, and how I started this, and how I ended up interviewing you.
See? There we go.
See?
That's how we do it. But this is fantastic, but yes, it's very awkward.
So
I don't do these often.
But this is all about you, and it's not about people bragging about what they have done.
Right.
It's about showing our audience and letting the people that listen to us live on Spreaker, social media, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, not only here in the United States, but in Venezuela. We have been heard in countries such as Sweden and Australia, which is crazy.
Wow.
And it's just letting them know that we have people that have worked hard to make their dreams come true.
And my life has come with some failures too. You know, even when I was here the first time in Orlando working for the ABC affiliate, WFTV, there was no room for promotion. I was the weekend anchor, and I was going to be the weekend anchor, and I said, no, I'm going to go. I'm going to go somewhere else. Then I was a morning anchor at the CBS station in Miami, and less than 2 years into it, I got demoted. New management came in, and they're like, yeah, you're not our guy anymore. I said, oh, wow.
How did you handle that as in a professional side? How did you handle that no at that point? Because sometimes when we are working hard to make our wildest dreams come true, and we have our goals and we have our careers,
right,
and we are looking forward on maybe reaching whatever we have in mind, which in my case is having an Emmy. Now you have 9. But
I'll let you visit one of mine.
That's fine. I can take a picture with one of yours. With all 9 saying, okay, this is all our mine.
Oh my goodness.
Thanks to George.
You're so
So
funny.
how do you handle
rejection?
Rejection. It sounds like a tough word, but sometimes you have to get the series of no's before getting a yes.
Yeah, and that was rough because I walked out. I got a phone call from my news director. Mind you, we're in the same office. And she was like, I'd like to meet with you tomorrow in the general manager's office. And I was like, oh, I wonder what that means. So then I called a mentor of mine and I said, hey, this is what's happening. It was actually the old news director here where I'm currently now working again. He's like, well, son, 3 things are going to happen with that phone call. He at one point was a general manager as well. He goes, either they're going to promote you and make you the main anchor, either they're going to fire you, or they're going to demote you. I said, how do you know? He goes, because that's the only 3 reasons why I would call you up to my office. Oh. He's like, I doubt you're going to get fired, because who would fire you? He's very sweet. He goes, and chances are you're not going to get the main job because you would have felt that. So my guess is you're being demoted. I was like, what do I do? He goes, you do nothing. You say nothing. You go in there. You hear what they have to say. You keep your head up high, and then you walk out. If you're going to break down, call me. If you're going to, we'll figure out what your next move is going to be. But do nothing and just go in there. And if they're going to make you, just a reporter, then just have the best positive attitude, which you've always had, and we'll figure it out. Sure enough. Next day, they demoted me. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
They demoted me, and I said, okay, why? Well, we're going in a different direction. That's an example, a good example for everyone listening and watching. Going in a different direction. I said, you know what? Okay. And they were like, we want you to know that you're great, and so that I make them nervous. That you're great, and we want to keep you on as a reporter.